All right, Terrence Popp here with another episode of Live from the Lair. And today I'm going to be covering a very sensitive subject. Now, before I start, I'm going to say this is for educational purposes only and for entertainment purposes only. I am not condoning anything that we're talking about here to be done in the real world, but you know how I am. I'm drawing a lot of information from historic events and so forth, and I'm basically applying them today as the world as we know it is unraveling. All right, now, I'm not really going to go into detail in regards to who I think is pulling the strings, but their end goal is basically to crash the Constitution and basically turn everyone in America almost identical to the people in China who have no recourse against their government and wind up, in concentration camps and having their organs cut out, and nobody can do shit because they don't have civil rights and nobody has guns over there. But, hey, this is, I labeled this one Death Trap, all right? And one of the main reasons I want to talk about this is I've talked to a couple cops in the past and some individuals who are, pretty high up in their departments. And as I talked to them, I became aware that they were basically setting their own death traps, and they were doing so with the classic mistakes men make. I did a whole video on that. All right, now basically when a man sets his own death trap, it's usually baited with one of the 7 deadly sins. And here it's pride and arrogance. All right, so, and this is actually, this is very common among the law enforcement community. I've talked to hundreds of cops in my 33-year career. I've trained a lot of cops, a lot of snipers, direct action, the whole deal. And for some reason, they have this air about them like their shit doesn't stink and they're invulnerable and, shit like that. And it isn't until they get like a rude wake-up call when one of them gets this taps in 21 do they even think of coming back to reality, and then shortly thereafter they're back doing their own bullshit. All right, now, I talked to them till I'm blue in the face. They're not fucking listening to me, so I'm putting out this video. It's, this is a warning to the people out there, and if the law enforcement community watches this, please take heed, because, I am trying to prevent bad shit from happening down the pipe by basically causing you to have some situational fucking awareness. All right. Most of the time, if you have situational awareness, you can avoid being a victim. You can probably keep your life or your property, but at a bare minimum, your lives. All right, so here we go. Oh, I didn't see you there. I thought you were done staring at my ugly mug, so I brought you this one. I'm not even gonna try to say the company name that makes this, because y'all know I'm as dyslexic as hell. But you can check the links in the description and buy one for yourself. Patriarchy, building civilization for 5,000 years and counting. Winning. If you want to drink deeply from the cup of expendability, well, this is a good start. Did I say expendability? I meant to say truth. All right, so I covered that. They don't listen or refuse to listen. What I'm going to talk about here is I did pull some notes from the Detroit Police Department and some after-action reports that they wrote up after the riots that we had here in '67 and a repeat in '68, that they didn't really have any plans to handle anything of that magnitude. All right, so And they're not the only one. A lot of the cities that have had these crazy riots and big civil disobedience, or whatever you want to call it, in the past, did not have proper plans in place for shit like that. Okay, now as we know, if you've been watching the news, Antifa and Black Lives Matter have been blocking intersections and roads on a regular basis, pulling people out of cars, kicking the shit out of them, causing traffic backups, not letting ambulances and fire trucks through. I mean, all kinds of fucked up shit. All right, now they've also been attacking courthouses and other police stations in various other areas of the country. And some of these attacks have been going on for almost a year. Now, we've had a couple individuals, well, I think Chauvin, the Chauvin trial, who was found guilty. Yeah, I don't think he got a fair trial, but that's just the way it is. I'm not going to add any more into that. You can watch another past episode where I talk about it in more depth. All right, so they got the guy convicted in all 3 counts. They haven't stopped their rioting or whatever. It hasn't slowed down. All right, it's still going on the West Coast, Minnesota. You know, it's not going to go away. And you know why? Because once they get a taste for it, that they can get their way by using the mob bullshit, they're just going to keep going. That's human nature. I didn't make that up. That's just the way it works. You ever hear they give them an inch, they take a mile? Well, there you go. Okay, now it has been reported to me, and this is just rumor control, that Antifa and BLM are training for direct action operations. That's not a good thing. All right, and one of the main reasons they're moving up to this level is the media keeps presenting the propaganda to keep the divide growing. All right, listen, there are not, you know, hordes of black people being put to death by the cops. Yes, people die at the hands of the police. A lot of times, you know, from what I've been able to see, it's probably 60-40 if they're justified or not. But there's a lot of information that I don't get to see until there's a trial, when it all comes out. Now, with that being said, I understand everyone's frustration at the cops, I really do. They have been acting like a bunch of asshats for decades. And not so much all of them, but there are always the bad apples out there. And you have the good cops that are unwilling to, you know, basically roll or do anything about the bad cops, which makes everyone look bad. All right, I myself have had some negative run-ins with the cops. Fortunately, I followed instructions and it all resolved copacetically. In some cases, that's not going to happen. All right, now the thing that most people are upset about here, and why they're focusing on the cops, is this thing called, it's qualified immunity. That's the word I was looking for. But it's basically an immunity given to the police, the people who work for the city, the people who work for the courts, the judges, the lawmakers, everyone involved in the whole law enforcement half, friend of the court, what have you. You can't sue them for violating your constitutional rights. A lot of times you can't sue them when they take an eye, they kill you, they damage you, they tear your house apart. You can't do anything about it. All right, now, I'm going to be honest. That pisses me off. All right, it does. You shouldn't have the right to, like, throw people on the ground, put your boot on their neck, and, you know, cuff them and stuff them, and then charge them with, like, 15 crimes, even though you really didn't do anything but perhaps a victimless crime. And they bump it up into a Fed level, you know, charge you with a bunch of felonies. You're going to get convicted. Federal time, you're doing 85% of that time. All right, now let's be honest here. Anybody out there watching this show, if they kick your door and ransack your house, you're going to have some stuff in there you probably can wind up going to jail over. There are so many federal laws and state laws, city, they all pile up. it is a huge worm pile that almost no one can navigate. All right. And by the prosecutors basically stacking the deck and charging you with multiple crimes, they're indirectly removing your constitutional rights. All right. So this is only going to get worse. All right. Because you have defunding the police, and now you have police quitting en masse and retiring. Okay. Or just, you know, they're what they call it, you know, road retired, where they're still doing the job, but they get a call, they don't show up until it's time to like stuff body bags, draw chalk outlines, and write reports. They don't want to be involved in anything crazy. So when you have the media continuing to push this narrative, you're empowering Antifa and BLM, because let's face it, no militias have come out and burned down shit, killed anybody, okay, haven't burned cities. That has not happened. The people that are doing that is Antifa and BLM. Period.
How dare you?
They can get pissed at me if you want. It's the truth. All right, so you have them losing power. You have the media basically lying to everyone, giving them propaganda or the illusion of all this negativity that's going on. And you have Antifa training for direct action missions, raising hundreds of millions of dollars, and has basically all the professional sports and mainstream media and big tech on their side. What do you think is going to happen? It's not going to go anywhere good, especially when these guys are gone. I call this board, what are you going to do? All right, now this is just a basic representation of a police station or cop shop that you have. Usually they're in a square building. There's usually 4 roads around them and so forth. And I was actually talking to some of these cops that were, you know, some of them ran city police departments or were high up in, you know, other departments around the country. And I said, what are you going to do when you have 200 men surrounding your police station, and they're not there with just signs and so forth, but, you know, you have 200 armed men that are willing to perpetrate violence, and they're hiding behind 400 to 800 protesters. What are you going to do? I'm telling you what you're going to do. A lot of these guys are going to sit in place because you have all these protesters that they don't want to hurt. You're going to get surrounded. All right, now the tactics used here have been used ever since the Middle Ages. They were perfected in the 1600s when guns and cannons were brought about. And they've been further perfected in the modern warfare era. But let's see, you get some fighters on each side of your building. You cut off. You have blocking positions put up, you know, to keep any help from getting to you. You can easily put these on arteries of, I don't know, the freeways and other major thoroughfares coming through. And what are you going to do? Really, like, what are you going to do? Now, inside this police station, you have things like an arms room, equipment like gas masks, nods, and thermals, and all the other goodies that these, you know, police forces have. And a lot of it was given them to by the military during Obama to modernize the force, basically turn it into a militant organization. All right, they're going to have their cars, radios, records. Now, the records are a big deal. Because if they actually breach this building and get these records, they will know where all of the employees for the police live, who works for them, and where they are, and so forth. All right, now, usually in the police station, you have a parking lot. There's going to be an entrance. You got the building, and maybe one, you know, how many stories. If it's a big city, it could be, you know, a lot more. And you might have satellite stations around. But, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to call, I mean, what plan do you have? Do you have an alert plan? Do these departments have a plan to call all of their officers, issue them instructions on what to do, where to be, and hopefully they don't have to come here to get their equipment, because if it's in here, You might want to come up with an alternate location and not put all your eggs in one basket. All right, because guess what? Antifa has used Molotov cocktails. This is nothing new. We've seen it on the news. You know, you get 15 guys throwing those over the walls here. Guess what? All your cars are now on fire. You've lost your mobility. The only cars you have are the ones that are out, patrolling about. Okay, so they're basically taking away your mobility and further isolating you by doing that. Do you have a rally point? Where the hell are your officers going to rally to try to take out one of these positions so people in the building can get the fuck out? Do you have a scuttling plan? Like if you lose this building and you have an arms room full of weapons, do you have a plan in place to destroy them so they can't be used against you or get them the hell out of there? You might want to put that on paper, maybe rehearse it. In fact, you should rehearse it, because if you don't, it's not going to survive initial contact. All right. Do you have an alternate rally point? Say this one is compromised. Do you have a backup? A lot of these plans, especially from Detroit in 1967, they didn't have jack shit like that in place. None of it. They were caught flat-footed, and the city paid the ultimate price, and it has never recovered to this day. Do you have an alternate storage area so you don't have to have all your eggs in one basket? Now, larger departments with like substations, you can spread stuff out. But there's a lot of police departments out there across all of this country that just have one department. You might want to put a plan in to maybe unfuck that, because that is a big weakness. All right, now you're saying, you know what, the cops will come help us from other cities and so forth. Those days are coming to an end. I'm going to be honest, and I've heard talk about this. Some of these blue cities that have allowed this shit to get out of control, called neighboring cities who basically didn't allow this shit to happen, and they're like, no, we're not sending our officers over there because you can't fucking handle your shit. Your city manager, your mayor, what have you, they're all fucked up. I'm not getting my people killed. So, in my opinion, that's a 50-50 thing. Because, cops, like soldiers, don't want to see other cops die. But, it is what it is. It's happening. If you think the cities close by are going to come to your aid, that's a minimum of 1, probably 2 hours at a minimum for them to pony up enough people to possibly help you. If you have 200 armed men plus 400 to 800 protesters, you're probably not going to have enough people or cops from one city. You're going to have to call them in from multiple cities surrounding you. And then there's problems of logistics, having them work together. If they've never trained together, that's going to be a huge problem. So you can say, we'll call the state police. Now here in Michigan, the state of Michigan is huge. Like literally from Ohio into the UP is like between 6 and 8 hour drive. If you want to drive all the way north, hook left and go all the way to Wisconsin, you're looking at 10 to 12 hours. That's a lot of ground. And these people in the Michigan have to cover different areas. So yes, you can pull some people, but listen, you're not going to have a company of cops show up. You're not going to have 120 cops, 120 state troopers able to show up in 4 to 6 hours. You might be able to swing that in a day, but it's not coming in 4 to 6 hours. All right, and you can forget about the National Guard. They're going to take 18 to 24 hours. And if your combat National Guard units are deployed forward, good fucking luck. If you're fortunate to have some combat MPs or something like that are in your National Guard system within your state, you're in luck. If not, hey, you're going to have to, try to call as many National Guard people who are not combat individuals and get them one area and get them the shit they need. Listen, it's 24 hours, 24 hours minimum. So at a minimum, we're talking 1 to 2 hours Do you have any idea what 200 armed men with a purpose can do to you in this building while you're surrounded and you are helpless and neutralized? If they know what they're doing, and listen, they're training direct action. Not all of the veterans who get off active duty are conservatives. A lot of them, I'm just going to be honest, you know, they fell on the wrong side of the fruit punch and they're over on the left and they totally bought all of this propaganda horse shit, and they are training these individuals to do military operations. All right, so let's rehash here. 200 armed men, 400 to 800 protesters they're hiding behind. You have your department surrounded. It has blocking positions in place so other cops can't get to you. Your cars are all on fire. All they really got to do is breach one of these walls. They can drive a vehicle in there. You can go to a fireworks store and purchase up a couple $1,000 or whatever, grind it up, and guess what? During the Middle Ages, when they didn't have anything else, black powder was used to destroy a bunch of stuff. It's not rocket science. I'm not going to give any more ideas other than that because, you know, I myself know things that the average people don't. I'm not going to be irresponsible and educate you guys in any of that horse shit. Other than that particular trick, because it's been done during the, the Boston Marathon. Those two yahoos bought a bunch of fireworks, ground them up, put them in basically a pressure cooker, and surrounded the outside with nuts, bolts, and other nefarious objects, which caused all kinds of pandemonium. Let's just say you get enough people rallied up that you can possibly do something. You're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to fight your way past the blocking position? Because that's going to get ugly. You got to be willing to do that if you want to get here and help these guys. And then you're going to have to do, basically, have a recon or somebody walk by and figure out which side has the least people so you can take them out of the way and get your people out. If you don't have these plans in place, when they come for you and you get a lot of your staff and your officers killed because you didn't plan, that's 100% your fault. Every time. Now listen, I'm an evil genius. I think about these things. I don't sleep at night. All right? This is an accurate prediction. Will it happen? I am leaning towards a very, very likely possibility.